The massive holographic display flickered to life in the center of the Galactic Entertainment Complex. Millions of alien beings across dozens of star systems leaned forward in their seats, tentacles twitching with excitement, crystalline bodies humming with anticipation. Welcome, citizens of the galaxy, to the most thrilling survival challenge ever conceived. The announcer's voice boomed through universal translators. The Galactic Survival Council has discovered the perfect testing ground, a primitive world called Earth, inhabited by barely evolved creatures who still live in caves and hunt with sticks. Commander Thex of the Vortak Empire adjusted his crystalline form in the viewing chamber. His people had conquered energy itself, bending light and heat to their will for over 10,000 years. The idea of surviving without their advanced technology seemed laughably simple. After all, how hard could it be to outlast some primitive cave dwellers? The rules are beautifully simple, the announcer continued. No advanced technology. No energy weapons. No synthetic materials. Our brave contestants must survive using only what they can make with their own hands, just like the native inhabitants of this backward planet. Captain Morvok's collective consciousness buzzed with amusement. His insectoid species had evolved as a perfect hive mind, sharing thoughts and resources instantly across vast distances. They had automated food production, climate control, and shelter construction for millennia. Individual survival was a concept they had never needed to consider. The Verdanian representative, a tall plant-like being named Silva, swayed gently in her environmental suit. Her people had transcended the need for tools entirely, drawing energy directly from their sun and minerals from their soil. They found the very concept of making fire to be quaint and primitive. In a small conference room on Earth, 3 humans sat around a wooden table, staring at the strange metal devices that had appeared in their homes the night before. The devices had projected holographic messages in perfect English, inviting them to participate in something called a Galactic Survival Challenge. Jack Thompson scratched his beard and looked at the message again. At 42, he had spent 20 years as a park ranger in Montana. He knew every plant, every animal track, every weather pattern in his territory. The message promised adventure beyond Earth, something he had only dreamed about while sitting around campfires under the stars. Kate Williams studied the hologram with the same intensity she brought to teaching wilderness survival courses in Alaska. At 35, she had guided everyone from military personnel to corporate executives through some of the harshest conditions on Earth. The challenge described in the message sounded like a typical weekend for her. Tom Mitchell, 28 and finishing his doctorate in experimental archaeology, felt his heart racing with excitement. He had spent years recreating ancient human technologies, learning to make fire with sticks, craft tools from stone, and build shelters from nothing but natural materials. The message mentioned other intelligent species, something he had wondered about his entire life. None of the 3 knew about each other yet, but they all made the same decision. They would go. Back in the galactic viewing centers, the betting had already begun. The odds heavily favored the alien contestants. Commander Thex was the clear favorite, with his species' natural resilience and energy manipulation abilities. Captain Morvok ranked second, with his collective intelligence and perfect coordination. The Verdanians held third place, assumed to have advantages in any natural environment. The humans were listed at the bottom of every betting pool. Most aliens had never heard of the species before. The few xenobiologists who had studied Earth's data files dismissed humans as recently evolved primates with basic tool use. Their lack of space travel technology was seen as clear evidence of their primitive nature. "Look at them," laughed one alien commentator, displaying images of humans using fire and simple tools. "They still burn organic matter for heat. They still use sharpened sticks for hunting. How adorable." The transport ships arrived on Earth simultaneously. Jack found himself beamed up from his cabin in Glacier National Park. Kate disappeared from her survival training camp in Denali. Tom was taken from the archaeological site where he had been demonstrating ancient pottery techniques to graduate students. They met for the first time aboard the alien vessel, a sleek ship that defied every law of physics they understood. The 3 humans introduced themselves while alien technicians prepared them for the challenge. They were given simple clothes made from plant fibers and animal skins, replacing their modern gear. "This feels like every survival course I've ever taught," Kate said, examining the primitive clothing. "Except with aliens watching. I've been practicing these techniques my whole career," Tom added, flexing his hands. "Though I never thought I'd need them on another planet." Jack just smiled. "Boys, we're about to show the galaxy what humans can really do." Meanwhile, the alien contestants received their own briefings. Commander Thex was assured by his scientists that his crystalline structure would easily adapt to any environment. Captain Morvok's collective ran probability calculations showing their overwhelming advantages. The Verdanians prepared special root systems for quick energy absorption. None of them bothered to research human history beyond confirming the absence of faster-than-light travel. They saw no need to study the survival techniques of such a primitive species. The ships approached a remote island in the Pacific Ocean. Cameras positioned themselves around the island, ready to broadcast every moment to the eagerly waiting galactic audience. Betting pools reached record numbers as aliens placed their bets on what they assumed would be an easy victory for their champions. As the transport beams activated, preparing to deposit the contestants on the island, one final announcement echoed across the galaxy. Let the ultimate survival challenge begin. The transport beams deposited all 6 contestants on the sandy beach of the remote island at exactly noon. The alien viewers across the galaxy settled into their seats, expecting to watch their champions quickly establish dominance over the confused humans. Commander Thex materialized first, his crystalline body catching the sunlight and throwing rainbow patterns across the sand. He looked around with confidence, waiting for his natural superiority to become obvious. Captain Morvok appeared next, his insectoid form clicking and buzzing as different parts of his collective consciousness tried to process the new environment. Silva, the Verdanian, immediately began extending root-like appendages into the ground, seeking nutrients and moisture. The 3 humans appeared last. Jack Thompson hit the ground running, literally. Before the other contestants had even finished looking around, he was already jogging toward the tree line, his experienced eyes scanning for the basic necessities of survival. Kate Williams dropped to one knee and scooped up a handful of sand, testing its texture and moisture content. Tom Mitchell walked quickly to a rocky outcropping and began examining the stone types available for tool making. The alien audience expected some confusion, some fear, maybe even panic from these primitive beings suddenly thrust into an alien challenge. Instead, they watched the humans move with purpose and confidence that seemed impossible for such a backward species. Within 15 minutes, Jack had identified 3 different types of useful wood, located a freshwater stream, and begun gathering dry tinder. The aliens were still trying to understand what tinder meant when smoke began rising from Jack's location. Impossible, Commander Thex said, his crystalline voice ringing like broken glass. How did he create combustion so quickly without energy tools? Jack had fire. Actual fire, burning steadily and producing both heat and light. He fed it carefully with small sticks, building it up gradually exactly like his grandfather had taught him 40 years ago. Kate had found the stream as well and was already at work. Using nothing but her hands and a sharp rock, she was fashioning hooks from small animal bones she had discovered near the water. Her movements were quick and precise, like someone who had done this exact task hundreds of times before. Tom was making the most noise, striking rocks together in a steady rhythm that echoed across the beach. Each strike sent chips flying as he shaped flint into sharp-edged tools. The alien contestants watched in fascination as he created a knife blade, scraping tools, and spear points with nothing but stone and patience. Captain Morvok's collective consciousness was experiencing something it had never felt before: confusion. Different parts of his hive mind were offering conflicting opinions about what they were witnessing. Some segments insisted the humans must be using hidden technology. Others argued that no technology they knew could work so simply and effectively. These techniques appear to be embedded in their neural pathways, Morvok transmitted to his collective. They are not learning these skills. They already possess them. Meanwhile, Commander Thex was discovering that his crystalline body, perfectly adapted for energy manipulation, was terrible at physical labor. When he tried to break a tree branch, his rigid structure created stress fractures in his arms. When he attempted to gather materials, his smooth surfaces could not grip properly. The very advantages that made him superior in an advanced civilization became weaknesses in this primitive environment. Silva was having her own problems. Her photosynthetic processes worked perfectly, allowing her to draw energy from the sun. But photosynthesis alone could not build shelter, create tools, or provide protection from weather. She could survive indefinitely by standing in one spot, but she could not thrive or adapt to changing conditions. By sunset, the difference between the contestants was shocking. The humans had established a complete base camp. Jack's fire burned steadily at the center, providing warmth, light, and a way to cook food. Kate had constructed a lean-to shelter using branches and leaves, creating a dry, protected space that could house all 3 humans. Tom had crafted a complete toolkit: knives, scrapers, spear points, and even a primitive axe. More importantly, the humans had worked together seamlessly. They shared resources, divided tasks according to their strengths, and communicated constantly about their plans and discoveries. Their cooperation appeared effortless, as natural as breathing. The alien contestants, by contrast, were struggling with basic survival concepts. Commander Thex huddled near the human's fire, his crystalline body developing visible cracks from the temperature changes he had never experienced. Captain Morvok's collective was paralyzed by indecision. Some parts wanted to gather food, others wanted to build shelter, still others wanted to establish territory. They could not agree on priorities. Silva had managed to create a basic windbreak by growing thicker bark, but she remained rooted in one spot, unable to move or adapt to better locations. The galactic audience fell silent as they watched their champions fail at tasks the humans completed easily. The betting odds began shifting dramatically. Emergency xenobiologists were called to explain what they were witnessing. It appears, one expert reported, that these humans have retained all of their species' survival knowledge. They have not lost these skills as they develop technology. Instead, they have kept both. Jack looked over at the struggling alien contestants and made a decision that would change everything. He walked over to Commander Thex, whose crystalline form was now showing serious damage from the cold. "Hey there," Jack said in simple English, knowing the universal translator would convert his words. "You look like you could use some help. Want to learn how to stay warm without breaking yourself apart?" The greatest revelation was just beginning. The third day on the island began with a discovery that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. Captain Morvok had spent the entire night trying to understand how the humans created fire. His collective consciousness had analyzed every movement, every technique, every small detail of the process. What he found terrified him. "They are not learning," he transmitted to his home world. "These techniques are already inside their minds. Every human knows this knowledge from birth." The galactic audience watched in growing amazement as the humans continued to demonstrate impossible skills. Jack had crafted a complex by using nothing but wood, plant fibers, and animal sinew. The weapon was perfectly balanced and incredibly accurate. Kate had built fish traps so effective that fresh food appeared in them every few hours. Tom had discovered clay deposits and was creating pottery vessels that could hold water and cook food over the fire. But it was not just individual skills that amazed the watchers. It was how the humans worked together. They shared every discovery, taught each other new techniques, and combined their knowledge to solve problems none of them could handle alone. Their cooperation was instant and natural, like they had been working as a team their entire lives. Commander Thex was learning this the hard way. His crystalline people had evolved to work alone, each individual a perfect energy manipulator. Cooperation was unknown to them because it had never been necessary. But on this island, working alone meant failure. "I do not understand," Thex said to Tom, who was patiently showing him how to knap flint. "How can you share your knowledge freely? Does this not make me your competitor?" Tom looked up from the stone he was shaping and smiled. "Competition works different for humans. We compete against the environment, not against each other. Your success helps my success. If you die from cold, I lose a potential ally and teacher." This concept was revolutionary. Across the galaxy, alien civilizations had always viewed knowledge as power to be hoarded, skills as advantages to be kept secret. The idea that sharing knowledge made everyone stronger was completely foreign to them. The revelation grew deeper as xenobiologists began studying human evolutionary history. What they discovered changed everything they thought they knew about intelligent development. Most alien species had evolved in stable environments. The Vortak had developed on a world of pure energy, where food and shelter were never concerns. The insectoid collective had evolved in perfect underground hive systems where individual survival skills were unnecessary. The Verdanians had evolved on a planet where simply existing in sunlight provided everything they needed. Humans had evolved on a world that was actively trying to kill them. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, climate changes, predators, diseases, and natural disasters had shaped human development for millions of years. Every generation that survived had passed down crucial knowledge to their children. Every technique that worked was remembered and improved. "Your species never had the luxury of forgetting how to survive," explained Dr. Zalera, the galaxy's leading expert on evolutionary development, during a live broadcast. While other species specialized and became dependent on their environments, humans were forced to remain adaptable. The humans demonstrated this adaptability every day. When the weather changed, they adjusted their shelter and clothing. When food sources shifted, they found new ones. When tools broke, they made better replacements. Every challenge was met with creative solutions that seemed to appear instantly. Kate was teaching Silva about food preservation when the Verdanian made a shocking discovery. Your knowledge systems, Silva said, her plant-like voice rustling with amazement, they contain information from thousands of generations. How is this possible without technological storage? Stories, Kate replied simply, hanging strips of fish over the smoking fire. Songs. Traditions. Hands-on teaching. My grandfather taught me to smoke meat like this when I was 8 years old. His grandfather taught him. Going back and back, each generation adding something new and keeping what worked. This was the revelation that stunned the galaxy. Human brains were living libraries containing millions of years of survival knowledge. Every human carried techniques developed by countless ancestors, refined through trial and error across countless generations. They were not primitive, they were the ultimate survivors. The alien contestants were beginning to understand their disadvantage. Commander Thex watched Tom create a sophisticated water purification system using nothing but sand, charcoal, and cloth. The system worked perfectly, producing clean drinking water from muddy stream water. On my world, we would use energy converters for this task, Thex admitted. But what happens when the energy converters fail? Then you die, Tom said matter-of-factly. But humans learned to clean water before we had energy converters. We kept that knowledge even after we invented better tools. Captain Morvok was experiencing something his collective had never felt: individual learning. Separated from his hive mind's constant input, different parts of his consciousness were developing independent thoughts and skills. Jack was teaching him to think like an individual human, making quick decisions without waiting for group consensus. Your species maintains both individual and group capabilities simultaneously, Morvok observed, his insectoid voice clicking with wonder. This should be impossible. Not impossible, Jack corrected, showing Morvok how to tie secure knots. Just necessary. Sometimes you need to think fast by yourself. Sometimes you need the group. We learned to do both. By the end of the third day, the power dynamic on the island had completely reversed. The aliens were no longer competitors, they were students. The humans had become teachers, sharing their knowledge freely and helping their alien companions survive. The galactic audience sat in stunned silence as they realized what they were witnessing. These primitive humans possessed the most advanced survival technology in the known universe, knowledge that lived inside their minds and could never be lost or broken. The greatest discovery was yet to come. By the start of the second week, the survival challenge had transformed into something completely unexpected. The three humans were no longer competitors struggling to outlast their alien rivals. They had become teachers, and their alien companions had become eager students desperate to learn skills their advanced civilizations had forgotten. Jack Thompson found himself sitting beside Captain Morvok every morning, teaching the collective consciousness something that seemed impossible for his species: how to make decisions as an individual. For millions of years, every choice Morvok's people made was discussed and agreed upon by the entire hive mind. But survival situations required instant reactions. Fire spreads fast, Jack explained, pointing to a controlled burn he was using to clear brush. You cannot hold a meeting about it. You must act now, right now, or everyone dies. Morvok's insectoid body trembled as different parts of his collective tried to process this concept. Slowly, painfully, he was learning to let individual segments of his consciousness make quick choices without consulting the whole group. It was terrifying and liberating at the same time. I am thinking alone, Morvok clicked in amazement after successfully choosing which direction to run during a practice emergency. Part of me decided without asking the others. This feels very strange. Kate Williams had taken on an even more challenging task, teaching Silva that survival required more than just existing. The Verdanian could live forever by standing in one spot and absorbing sunlight, but she could not adapt when conditions changed. Life is not about staying alive, Kate said, helping Silva practice moving from location to location. Life is about being ready when everything goes wrong. Kate had built a series of different shelters around the island, each designed for different weather conditions. She was teaching Silva to recognize when storms were coming and how to reach the right shelter in time. For a species that had never needed to move or plan ahead, this was revolutionary thinking. But why build shelter for rain that might not come? Silva asked, her plant-like voice rustling with confusion. Because the rain that might not come will definitely come someday, Kate replied. And when it does, you want to be ready. Tom Mitchell faced the biggest challenge of all, teaching Commander Thex that individual strength meant nothing without adaptability. Thex's crystalline people were incredibly powerful, able to manipulate energy and reshape matter with their minds. But their rigid crystalline bodies were breaking down in the natural environment. Your strength is also your weakness, Tom explained, showing Thex how to wrap soft materials around his sharp edges to prevent damage. You are so hard that you cannot bend. But survival requires bending. Tom was teaching Thex the most human of all skills, how to use tools as extensions of the body rather than replacements for natural ability. Instead of trying to break branches with his crystalline hands, Thex learned to use stone axes. Instead of trying to grip objects with smooth crystal surfaces, he learned to wrap his hands with rough plant fibers. These tools make me weaker, Thex protested, struggling with a simple stone knife. No, Tom corrected patiently. These tools make you different. Sometimes different is better than strong. The transformation was remarkable to watch. Captain Morvok, who had never made an individual decision, was now setting traps and making repairs without consulting his collective. His different body segments were learning to work independently while still coordinating with each other. He was becoming something new, a being that could think both as a group and as individuals. Silva was learning to move and plan ahead for the first time in her species' history. She could still draw energy from the sun, but now she also knew how to find shelter, store water, and protect herself from dangers. She was combining her natural abilities with learned skills in ways that made her stronger than either alone. Commander Thex was perhaps changing the most. His rigid crystalline structure was learning to work with flexible tools and soft materials. He was discovering that sometimes the best solution was not the most powerful one, but the most adaptable one. His energy manipulation abilities, combined with human-taught survival skills, were creating entirely new possibilities. The alien audience across the galaxy was experiencing its own transformation. What had started as entertainment was becoming education. Millions of beings were watching their champions learn skills their own species had never developed. The broadcasts were being recorded and studied by governments, military leaders, and scientists throughout known space. These humans are not teaching technology, observed Dr. Cathera, a leading xenoanthropologist, during a live commentary. They are teaching a way of thinking. A way of approaching problems that our civilizations never developed. The humans themselves were learning too. Working with beings who thought so differently was teaching them new perspectives on old problems. Morvok's collective intelligence was showing them how to coordinate complex group activities. Silva's patient, long-term thinking was helping them plan further ahead. Thex's energy manipulation was opening up possibilities they had never imagined. This is not about winning anymore, Jack said during one of the daily broadcasts, speaking directly to the galactic audience. This is about all of us becoming something better than what we were alone. Kate nodded in agreement. We thought you were our competition. But you are our teachers too. We are all learning from each other. Tom added the final thought that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. Maybe the real survival skill is not knowing how to make fire or build shelter. Maybe it is knowing how to learn from anyone, anywhere, anytime. The lesson was spreading far beyond the island. Across the galaxy, civilizations were beginning to realize what they had lost in their rush toward advancement. The greatest technology in the universe was not in their machines, it was in their ability to adapt and grow. The final day of the challenge arrived with an announcement that shocked every viewer across the galaxy. The Galactic Council's official representative materialized on the beach in a shimmer of light, but instead of declaring a winner, she carried a message that would change everything. This competition is over, announced Counselor Vexera, her multiple eyes scanning the transformed contestants. But not because anyone has won or lost. It is over because we have all learned something that makes winning and losing meaningless. The 6 contestants stood together on the beach, no longer divided into human and alien groups. They had become something new, a team that combined the best abilities of 4 different species. Jack, Kate, and Tom stood beside their alien companions who had been transformed by 2 weeks of learning skills their civilizations had forgotten. Captain Morvok stepped forward, his insectoid form moving with new confidence. The collective consciousness that had once paralyzed him with endless debate now worked in perfect harmony. Individual segments could make quick decisions while still sharing knowledge with the whole group. I request to speak, Morvok clicked, using words his species had never needed before. My collective has reached a unanimous decision. We wish to learn more from the humans. Our civilization has a critical weakness that we never knew existed. Commander Thex moved next to Morvok, his crystalline body now wrapped in woven plant fibers that protected him from damage while allowing flexibility. The rigid being who had arrived 2 weeks ago was gone, replaced by someone who understood that true strength came from adaptability. The Vortak Empire controls vast energy sources, Thex said, his voice ringing with new humility. But if our energy systems fail, we would all die within days. We have forgotten how to exist without our technology. This makes us weaker than the humans, not stronger. Silva spoke last among the aliens, her plant-like form now mobile and alert in ways that amazed her own species. She had learned to move between different locations, to plan ahead, to adapt to changing conditions while still maintaining her natural abilities. My people have lived for millions of years, Silva said, her voice rustling with new wisdom. But we have not truly lived. We have only existed. The humans have taught us that survival is not about lasting forever. It is about growing and changing and becoming better. The galactic audience watched in stunned silence as their champions admitted that the primitive humans possessed knowledge more valuable than any technology in known space. Emergency sessions were being called in governments across 17 star systems as leaders realized their civilizations shared the same critical weakness. Counselor Vexera turned to address the humans directly. The Galactic Council extends an official invitation for Earth to join our civilization. But not as students learning from us. As teachers showing us what we have forgotten. Jack Thompson scratched his beard and looked out at the ocean where this incredible journey had begun. We appreciate the offer, but we have a condition. We do not want to be your teachers. We want to be your partners. You have things to teach us too. Kate Williams nodded in agreement. These 2 weeks have shown us that different ways of thinking make everyone stronger. Morvok's collective intelligence, Thex's energy manipulation, Silva's long-term perspective. We learned as much from them as they learned from us. Tom Mitchell held up a remarkable object he had crafted during the final days, a tool that combined human stoneworking techniques with alien energy principles that Thex had taught him. It was something neither species could have created alone. This is what happens when different knowledge combines, Tom said, the hybrid tool gleaming in the sunlight. Something completely new that is better than anything we could make separately. The implications spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours of the broadcast ending, alien military academies were implementing new training programs. The Vortak Empire announced mandatory, primitive skills, education for all citizens. The Insectoid Collective began teaching individual decision-making alongside group coordination. Verdanian society started developing mobility and adaptation protocols. But the changes went deeper than just survival training. The entire concept of advancement was being questioned and redefined. Civilizations that had measured progress by how much they could abandon their past were now measuring it by how much they could integrate old knowledge with new possibilities. Dr. Zalera appeared on every major news network across the galaxy with a statement that would become historic. We have discovered that true advancement is not leaving your foundations behind. It is building on top of them while never forgetting the skills that kept your species alive. The humans never abandoned their survival knowledge when they developed technology. They kept both. This is why they are more advanced than any of us. The 3 humans returned to Earth as the most famous beings in galactic history. But they did not return alone. Captain Morvok established the first alien research station on Earth, studying human survival techniques and teaching collective intelligence principles to human teams. Commander Thex began a cultural exchange program, sharing energy manipulation knowledge while learning advanced tool-making. Silva started the first interspecies botanical research center, combining photosynthetic techniques with human agriculture. The survival challenge had ended, but the real adventure was just beginning. Across the galaxy, the phrase human survival protocols became standard terminology in every military, scientific, and educational institution. Not because humans were the strongest or smartest species, but because they had mastered the most important skill of all, the ability to adapt and survive no matter what challenges arose. Earth's greatest export was not technology or resources. It was wisdom. The wisdom of never forgetting where you came from, even when reaching for the stars.